the realm of horror stories, few settings are as quintessential as the old, creaky family manor. It's a trope as old as time, yet one that never fails to send shivers down our spines. Today, we're delving into a tale that combines this classic setting with a modern twist, exploring the intersection of technology, supernatural forces, and the courage of a young girl faced with unimaginable terror. Our story begins with Emma, a 14-year-old teenager, finding herself alone in her family's ancient manor on a cold winter evening. Her parents have embarked on a weekend getaway, leaving Emma to her own devices. It's a scenario many of us can relate to, that first taste of independence, tinged with a hint of excitement and a dash of apprehension. As the clock strikes midnight, Emma is engrossed in a book in the living room, the crackling fireplace her only companion. The manor's old landline phone suddenly pierces the silence with its shrill ring. It's an unexpected intrusion, one that immediately sets our nerves on edge. Who could be calling at this hour? Emma, curious and perhaps a little wary, answers the phone. The voice on the other end is unfamiliar and unsettling. Hoarse and raspy, it speaks of urgency and danger. "Emma," it says, "there has been an accident. Your neighbor, Mr. DuPont, is injured and needs your help." It's a classic setup for a horror story. The damsel in distress, the call for help, the potential trap. But Emma isn't your typical horror movie protagonist. She's cautious, smart, and not easily fooled. Her first instinct is to question the caller's identity. "Who is calling?" she asks, her voice steady despite the late hour and the strange circumstances. The voice's response is vague and evasive. "A friend of your family." This answer does little to assuage Emma's suspicions. In fact, it only serves to heighten them. She decides to test the caller, to see if they truly are who they claim to be. "What is my father's first name?" she asks, a simple question that any true family friend should be able to answer without hesitation. To Emma's surprise, the voice answers correctly. For a moment, she wavers. Could this be legitimate after all? But something in the caller's tone, a subtle undercurrent of menace perhaps, keeps her on guard. Emma's instincts are screaming at her that something isn't right, and she wisely decides to trust them. In a stroke of quick thinking that would make any parent proud, Emma decides to double-check the caller's story. She pulls out her cell phone and dials her father's number. It's a tense moment as she waits for the call to connect. Will her father answer? Is he truly away for the weekend, or has something sinister happened? To Emma's immense relief, her father picks up almost immediately. His voice, familiar and comforting, is a stark contrast to the unsettling tones of the mysterious caller. Emma quickly explains the situation, and her father assures her that there has been no accident. Mr. DuPont is fine, and there's no reason for Emma to leave the safety of the manor. Meanwhile, the voice on the landline continues its urgent pleas. It insists that Emma must go out, that she must help Mr. DuPont. But now, armed with the truth from her father, Emma sees these entreaties for what they truly are, a sinister attempt to lure her out of the safety of her home. Emma's next actions are swift and decisive. She abruptly hangs up the landline, cutting off the mysterious voice mid-sentence. Then, with a maturity beyond her years, she systematically checks and locks every door and window in the manor. It's a smart move, one that transforms the sprawling old house from a potential trap into a fortress. But even as Emma secures the manor, she can't shake the feeling that she's not alone. There's a palpable sense of a presence, something otherworldly and malevolent. It's as if the very air around her has thickened, charged with an unseen energy that makes the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Just as Emma is beginning to wonder if she's letting her imagination run wild, a sound cuts through the silence. It's the unmistakable thud of heavy footsteps, coming from the hallway upstairs. The sound is deliberate, measured, as if whatever is up there wants Emma to know of its presence. In this moment, Emma faces a choice that would paralyze many adults, let alone a 14-year-old girl. She could hide, cowering in fear and hoping that whatever is upstairs doesn't find her. Or she could face the threat head-on, arming herself with knowledge of what she's up against. In a display of courage that's both admirable and perhaps a little foolhardy, Emma chooses the latter. She grabs a flashlight, its beam a feeble defense against the unknown, and slowly begins to climb the stairs. Each step creaks under her weight, a cacophony that seems to echo through the entire manor. As she reaches the top of the stairs, Emma pauses. The footsteps have stopped, but the sense of a presence is stronger than ever. With trembling hands, she reaches for the doorknob of her parents' room. For a moment, she hesitates. Does she really want to see what's on the other side? But Emma's courage doesn't falter. She turns the knob and pushes the door open. The beam of her flashlight cuts through the darkness, illuminating a scene straight out of a nightmare. There, in the center of the room, stands a dark, motionless figure. It's humanoid in shape, but there's something fundamentally wrong about its proportions, something that screams of the unnatural. But it's the eyes that truly terrify Emma. They shine in the darkness, reflecting the beam of her flashlight with an otherworldly gleam. These are not the eyes of any living creature Emma has ever seen. They are the eyes of something ancient, something that should not be. Emma's instincts kick in, and she begins to back away slowly. Her heart is pounding so hard she can hear it in her ears, drowning out everything else. The figure, which had been motionless until now, begins to move. Its movements are slow, jerky, as if it's not quite used to its own body. In this moment of pure terror, Emma realizes that this is not Mr. Dupont, nor is it any human intruder. This is something far more terrifying, something beyond her wildest nightmares. The realization hits her like a physical blow, and she turns to run. But the manor, which has been her home and sanctuary for so long, seems to turn against her. As she reaches the top of the stairs, the exit in sight, the front door slams shut with a resounding bang. It's as if the house itself is conspiring with the entity, trapping Emma inside. Panic threatens to overwhelm her. The figure is still behind her, its slow, inexorable approach like something out of a nightmare. Emma knows she can't outrun it forever. She needs a plan, a way to fight back against this supernatural threat. In this moment of desperation, a memory surfaces. Emma recalls an old family legend, whispered about during family gatherings but never taken seriously. The legend speaks of a vengeful spirit that haunts the manor, a malevolent entity tied to the house's dark history. With this realization comes a spark of hope. If the threat is supernatural in nature, perhaps it can be fought with supernatural means. Emma remembers her great-grandmother's stories about an old grimoire, a book of spells and incantations, hidden somewhere in the manor's vast library. With renewed purpose, Emma races to the library. The entity is still in pursuit, its presence a constant, terrifying pressure at her back. She can hear it moving through the house, its unnatural movements causing the old floorboards to groan in protest. The library is vast, filled with thousands of books collected over generations. Finding one specific tome seems an impossible task. But Emma is driven by desperation and fear, and she tears through the shelves with frantic energy. Just as she's about to give up hope, her hands close around an ancient, leather-bound volume. The moment she touches it, she knows it's what she's been looking for. The book seems to hum with an energy of its own, as if it's been waiting for this moment. Emma flips through the pages with trembling hands, acutely aware of the approaching entity. The language is archaic, filled with words and symbols she doesn't understand, but somehow, instinctively, she knows which incantation to use. As the entity enters the library, its malevolent presence filling the room, Emma begins to recite the incantation. The words feel strange on her tongue, ancient and powerful. As she speaks, the air around her begins to shimmer, as if reality itself is bending. The entity lets out an inhuman scream, a sound that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It's a sound of rage, of frustration, but also of fear. For the first time, Emma realizes that she has the upper hand. As she reaches the final words of the incantation, the entity's form begins to waver. It's as if it's being torn apart from the inside, its unnatural existence unable to withstand the power of the spell. With a final ear-splitting shriek, the entity disappears in a blinding flash of light. The sudden silence is deafening. Emma, exhausted and overwhelmed, collapses to the floor. She's done it. She's faced an unimaginable horror and emerged victorious. But even as relief washes over her, a nagging doubt remains. Is the entity truly gone, or has it merely been banished temporarily? As the first rays of dawn begin to filter through the library windows, Emma hears the sound of a car pulling up to the manor. Her parents have returned, their weekend getaway cut short by some inexplicable feeling of unease. They find Emma in the library, exhausted but safe. As she recounts her terrifying night, her parents listen with a mix of disbelief and growing concern. The old family legends, long dismissed as mere stories, suddenly take on a new, chilling significance. In the light of day, the decision is made. The family will leave the manor, abandoning the ancestral home with its dark secrets and lingering terrors. As they drive away, Emma looks back at the imposing structure. She knows she survived a night of unimaginable horror, but she can't shake the feeling that this isn't the end. The manor stands silent and empty, its windows like eyes watching their departure. And somewhere within its walls, perhaps, something waits and remembers, and plans for the day when it might once again have the chance to break free from its ancient prison. As we reflect on Emma's harrowing experience, we're left with questions that have haunted humanity for centuries. What lies beyond the veil of our everyday reality? Are there forces at work that we can't comprehend, entities that exist just beyond the edge of our perception? And if so, how do we protect ourselves from them? Emma's story serves as a reminder of the power of courage, quick thinking, and the importance of trusting our instincts. In the face of the unknown, these qualities can be our greatest weapons. But it also raises unsettling questions about the nature of evil and the thin line that separates our world from realms we can scarcely imagine. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of this tale is its ambiguity. Was the entity truly vanquished or merely banished? Will it return one day, seeking revenge on Emma or her descendants? And what of the manor itself? Does it stand empty now, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets, or has another unsuspecting family moved in, unaware of the horrors that lurk within its walls? These are questions without easy answers, but they're the kind of questions that keep us coming back to horror stories time and time again. They remind us of the mysteries that still exist in our world, the unexplained phenomena that defy rational explanation. They challenge our understanding of reality and force us to confront the possibility that there might be more to our world than we can see or touch. As we close the book on Emma's terrifying night, we're left with a mix of relief and unease. Relief that she survived her ordeal, but unease at the thought of what might still be out there, waiting in the shadows. It's a reminder to keep our wits about us, to trust our instincts, and to never underestimate the power of knowledge and courage in the face of the unknown. So the next time you find yourself alone in an old house, and the phone rings at midnight, remember Emma's story, and maybe, just maybe, let it go to voicemail.